All the living organism on the surface of this earth grows, matures, and dies. Now, that aspect of science which deals with growth and development is called auxiology. And the study of human physical growth and development, therefore, is known as human auxiology. We can understand growth as increase in size of various organs, resulting to overall increase in the size of the body, and it is brought about by hyperplasia, that is, increase in the number of cells, hypertrophy, that is, increase in the size of the cells, and accretion, that is, increase in intercellular substances. Whereas development, on the other hand, is simply understood as increase in complexity. Well, development and growth sometimes are used interchangeably, but they actually carry different meaning. Because when we say development, it is more than growth. Say, a girl may experience menarche. That means first menstruation. This is an example of development. This cannot be measured. Here in this module, we will be confining more on the part of the growth rather than development. Now, let us come to the different stages of human growth. There are various stages of human growth. When we say stages of human growth, we should not confuse with stages of life cycle, because growth is confined to a particular period, that is, from the moment of conception till maturity. Whereas when we talk of life cycle, it will be from the moment of conception till death. In general, we can broadly divide human growth into two phases. One is prenatal phase and another is postnatal phase, interphased by a particular stage called birth. Well, let us come to what is meant by prenatal phase. Prenatal phase is the period before birth, that is, from the moment of conception or what we call fertilization till near birth. Prenatal phase is one of the most important phases. Why? Because it is the shortest stage in one's life cycle. It is during this stage that a single cell or one cell organism will develop to a being having more than 2 billion cells. Then again, this prenatal phase is the phase which shows fastest rate of growth. See, one cell multiplies, it differentiates, make up tissues, organs, and organ system, and further refinement takes place, essentially for functioning after the birth. Now, let us come to the different stages of prenatal phase. Here again, there are different versions. In one of the versions, the first stage is fertilization, that is, the fusion of male gamete and female gamete. Then the second stage is early embryonic stage, or also called germinal stage. This is the period between fertilization and second week. It is during this stage that the single cell divides, and this division of single cell or multiplication of single cell is called cleavage. Then the first product of cleavage is called blastomere. That means one cell divides into two cells, it becomes blastomere. Then a number of blastomeres together forms a ball-shaped structure, and that is what we call as blastocyst. And gradually the embryonic discs of the blastocyst forms ectoderm, that means the outer layer, mesoderm, the middle layer, and endoderm. These layers will later on form different parts and organ system of the body. Then we have embryonic stage. Embryonic stage starts with 3rd week and continues up to 8th week. And by this time, various external and internal structures are formed. Then comes the fetal stage. Fetal stage starts with 9th week till near birth. So by 9th week, the fetus measures 3 centimeters long and weighs about 2 grams. Whereas at the end of fetal stage, that means at the time of birth, the newborn measures around 48 to 53 centimeters in length and weighs about 3 to 3.5 kg in weight. So these are the different stages of prenatal phase. Coming to the postnatal phase. Postnatal phase is the stage of growth after the birth till attainment of full maturity. So postnatal phase can further be divided into a number of stages. First stage is infancy stage. So during the life cycle of an individual, the period between birth and 2 years of age, when an individual experiences a new independent existence, is opposed to the total dependence upon the mother and her well-being for survival prior to birth. This is what we call as infancy stage. This infancy stage of human development is characterized as the time of rapid change, a crucial period for psychological development, a time when individual differences are first observed, and a time when socialization begins. Now, this infancy period has been again divided into substages. The first substage is neonatal period. Neonatal period is that particular growth period from birth till attainment of 28 days. Newborns possess certain characteristics such as presence of lanugo, that means down-like hair, very fine hair on the body, and a special type of cream, what we call vernix cascosa, and during the first 3-4 days, the newborn experiences a decrease in body weight. This is because before birth, when the product of pregnancy was a fetus, it depends mainly on mother's nutrition, or it depends for its nutrition on mother's circulatory system. But as and when the newborn comes out in environment, what happens? He finds difficult to adapt the new environment, and particularly the new feeding mechanism. That is why there is decrease in weight, whereas increase in length takes place. Because prior to birth, the baby was inside the fetus, in fact, in a coiled condition. But as and when it comes out, it uncoils and it extends its length. Therefore, it increases in length immediately. Then comes the next substage of infancy, that is true infancy. It begins with from the 2nd month till 24 months. That means 2nd month to 2 years. During the first year of infancy, the infant may add as much as 25 centimeter in length and 7 kg in weight, which represents about 50% of the total body length and 200% of the total body weight of the birth. By the end of infancy period, most infants grow from an average of 20 inches at birth to about 34 inches through second year. This figure represents about 50% of the adult size. As far as brain size is concerned, the increase in the brain weight during infancy is equally dramatic. At birth, the brain weighs about 12 ounces, that is around 340.190 grams, which is about 25% of the adult size. Then, surprisingly, it increases to about 2.5 pounds, that is 1.34 kg, which represents about 75% of the adult brain size at the end of infancy. Another important characteristic development of infancy stage is eruption of primary or milk teeth. So, sometimes infancy period is also known as milk tooth period. Then, the second stage of postnatal phase is childhood stage. During the life cycle of an individual, the stage following infancy and just before adolescence is the stage of childhood. This stage of childhood or childhood stage is further divided into 3 substages. First, the early childhood stage. This early childhood stage is from the 2nd year to the 6th year after the birth. Then we have middle childhood. It starts from the 7th year till 10th year. Then we have late childhood stage from the 10th year till puberty. Puberty ranges between 12 to 15 years for girls and 13 to 16 years for boys. The early childhood stage is characterized by rapid growth in height and weight as far as physical development is concerned. And this rapid growth in height and weight follows the general rule that children should measure about 7 times their birth weight by the end of early childhood period, that is 6 years. Then we have middle childhood period characterized by slower rate of physical changes and concentration on mastery of basic skills and abilities. On the whole, growth takes place in a slower rate than any other stage of growth period of an individual. Among the various changes observed during middle childhood, the dentition pattern is one. The dentition pattern on the whole is characterized by loss of milk or deciduous teeth and eruption of permanent teeth. The first permanent teeth to erupt are the first permanent molars, which erupt around the age of 6 plus minus 9 months. Then, in the late childhood stage, it is also otherwise known as prepubertal period. During the preceding period, that is middle childhood, the average height of boys exceeds that of girls. But by the late childhood substage, girls' average height exceeds that of boys. This difference is mainly associated with attaining maturity earlier among the girls than boys. Similarly, during this period, girls catch up and overtake boys in respect of body weight. Adolescent stage in general is characterized by rapid physical and physiological changes, increasing personal autonomy from parents and family. Then social experimentation, idealism, conflict and personal uncertainty, and focus on identity formation and involvement with age mates. As regards physical changes, this stage is the stage leading to maturity. So, sexual maturation takes place during adolescence growth period. Ovarian and testicular maturation in case of girls and boys respectively results to attainment of reproductive capabilities and many anatomical changes as well. So, these are the different phases and stages of human growth. Now, coming to the various methods of human growth, for understanding the pattern of sequential and continuous nature of growth, a systematic and rather a scientific method of growth study is required. This can be fulfilled by using two important methods of growth studies, namely longitudinal method and cross-sectional method. In longitudinal study, only one individual or few individuals are examined and measured or observed. Whereas in case of cross-sectional study, large sample or large number of subjects are considered for measuring and observing. Besides these two methods, there is yet another method called mixed longitudinal method. As we know, in longitudinal methods, sometimes circumstance may compel some children to be replaced by others in the midst of study. So, when the subjects of longitudinal study is replaced cross-sectionally by new entrants, this method is called mixed longitudinal method of growth study. Coming to the types of growth, we have linear growth. Linear growth means increase in length and breadth of various dimensions of body. Then we have aerial growth. Aerial growth means increase in the circumference, such as chest girth, horizontal circumference of head, abdomen girth, or hip circumference, etc. Then we have ponderal growth, which means increase in mass of body. Now, let us come to the factors affecting growth. Growth is affected by two important factors. One is genetic factor and another is environmental factor. Genetic factor is the factor contributed by the genes of the parents, whereas environmental factor means, as we know, environment means the totality of the surrounding in which an organism or an individual finds itself. So, both genetic factor and environmental factor interact and helps in bringing about growth. The two are so related that one factor cannot be eliminated while studying the factors of growth. Coming to the environmental factor, as I have told you, environment means the totality of the surrounding in which an organism or an individual finds itself. So, when we say environment, it covers many aspects. One important aspect is nutrition. Let us see the impact of nutrition on growth. As we know, growth means increase in size. And this increase in size is brought about by multiplication of cells and their enlargement. And this multiplication of cells and their enlargement depends on adequate supply of energy, amino acids, lipids, water, and vitamins. All these are nothing but nutrition. So, our human body requires 48 essential nutrients to achieve a perfect growth. Essential nutrients are those part of the diet or those components of the diet which we cannot manufacture artificially. And if eliminated from our diet, a normal individual growth will be failed. Therefore, these essential nutrients are very much needed by our body for achieving full growth. Then, in environmental factors, we can take into consideration of climatic factors. Climatic factors also affect human growth. So, when we say climate, it means the overall weather condition for a particular period. So, it encompasses temperature, relative humidity, exposure to sunlight, rainfall associated with human growth. Then, if we examine the relationship of temperature and growth, it has been observed that in many of the societies, in many of human societies or human population, it has been observed that in many of the human population, temperature has a negative correlation with body weight. That means the higher the atmospheric temperature, the lower the body weight. And there is a positive correlation with stature. The higher the temperature, taller the stature. Again, in tropical region, this condition of negative correlation with body weight does not hold true for pygmies who live in high temperature but humid condition. Apart from this, socio-economic status, migration and urbanization, etc. also has its own impact or affect human growth. Socio-economic status and growth is related because when we talk of socio-economic status, it can tell us the living condition of a particular family, as for example. So, the higher the socio-economic status, the faster the growth rate. It is because in high socio-economic status families, there is regularity of food supply, regularity of meals. Then in high socio-economic status families, balanced diet is consumed. Now, we have come to know that growth and development being a very important characteristics of all living organism, it takes place in human being also. Growth and development are two concepts which go hand in hand together. Growth simply means increase in size and mass, whereas development means increase in complexity. So, when we say growth, development is very much associated. But when we say development, growth may not be associated.